You look down at your phone. A friend replied to your long, heartfelt message with a single letter, K. Your stomach drops, and your mind frantically searches for what you might have done wrong. It feels like your brain is working against you. When you need a calm perspective, you find yourself trapped in a list of worst-case scenarios. To understand why this happens, we have to look past your personality. This spiral isn't a character flaw. It is a biological habit that your brain has practiced until it became automatic. To stop the worry, you have to look at the physical architecture inside your head. Every thought you've ever had is the work of a microscopic cell called a neuron. These tiny messengers are the foundational building blocks for everything you feel. A neuron looks like a tree. Top branches gather information, like reading a vague text. The signal travels into the trunk-like hub, then shoots down a long root, releasing chemicals across a tiny gap to the next tree. An anxious thought is simply this chemical chain reaction firing across a specific network. There is a golden rule in neuroscience. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time a specific chain of cells fires at the same time, the connection between them gets physically stronger. Your brain actually changes its physical shape based on what you do most often. London taxi drivers, for example, memorize thousands of city streets. Years of repetition causes the memory centers of their brains to physically grow larger. You see the same thing in musicians. Years of repetitive practice physically expand the networks in the brain responsible for finger movements and timing. Even stroke survivors can rebuild lost abilities. By repeating specific movements in therapy, they force their brains to build entirely new physical connections to replace the ones that were damaged. Every habit or fear you have today exists because repetition literally rebuilt your brain's physical wiring. Think of overthinking like walking through a forest. Having a brand new worried thought for the very first time is difficult, like hacking a fresh path through dense, tall grass. But if you repeat that same worry tomorrow, you clear a little more grass. Eventually, you form a dirt trail that makes it easier to walk the next time you get a vague text. Your brain notices you are using this path a lot, so it tries to make it more efficient. It begins wrapping the root of those neurons in a fatty insulation. This insulation allows signals to jump forward at over 100 meters per second, while uninsulated signals crawl along slowly. You have essentially turned a slow dirt trail into a high-speed paved highway. This is why overthinking feels so automatic. You have paved a low-resistance superhighway that your thoughts slide onto before you even realize it's happening. Deep inside your brain is the amygdala, a primitive alarm system that is always scanning for threats. A minor trigger, like a looming test or social drama, sets off this alarm, pushing your thoughts directly onto that paved anxiety highway. This creates a self-reinforcing loop. The alarm leads to worry. Worry keeps your stress hormones high, and those hormones make the alarm even more sensitive to the next minor problem. Over time, your brain becomes an expert at noticing problems and a novice at noticing anything positive, simply because the negative highway is the easiest path to take. Long-term overthinkers have essentially trained their brains to be Olympic-level athletes at stressing out. Since you cannot just blow up a paved biological highway, you have to find a way to steer your thoughts off of it. This requires engaging the logical center at the front of your brain. This part of your mind is responsible for reasoning and can actually override the panic alarm. One tool is the 10-10-10 rule. When you start to spiral, ask, will this matter in 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years? This forces your logical brain to do the work of future-oriented planning, which naturally quiets the alarm. You can also use a technique called name it to tame it. By silently labeling the emotion, saying, this is just anxiety about looking foolish, you activate your logical center and reduce the intensity of the stress response. Each time you use these tools, you are deliberately forcing your brain off the highway and choosing to walk a new, calm path through the tall grass. Because building a new pathway requires the brain to physically grow new connections and insulation, it takes time. Research shows that consistent practices, like mindfulness, take about 8 to 12 weeks before they produce measurable changes in your brain structure. If you stop using the old anxiety highway, your brain begins a process of use it or lose it. It slowly strips away the insulation from those unused neurons, and the old road becomes overgrown and harder to travel. Your brain remains adaptable across your entire lifespan. It is constantly reorganizing itself based on what you think, do, and repeat. You are the architect of your own mind. Every conscious choice you make today is a vote for the mental peace you will have tomorrow.